Chapter 9 is all about appraising and managing performance. First, let me talk to you about the employee performance appraisal. It is the part of the human resource management function by which the past or current job of an employee is reviewed, evaluated, and kept on file as evidence to support management's future actions and decisions. The importance of performance appraisal is that it will help us to know if one's employee is fulfilling its job that has been assigned to them. And also in manager needs to know the strengths and weaknesses of one's employee, because every employee's individual performance influences how all the team or even in the firm is doing. Typically, performance appraisal is conducted annually or every 6 months, or maybe every quarter, or in a more shorter cycle such as weekly or bi-weekly. So it involves the following. Establish the job criteria. It is very important to establish job criteria for us to know the standard of the certain job that has been assigned to them. The second one is comparing and measuring actual performance of job criteria. It will help us to know if one's employee is being productive on fulfilling its job. The third one is the communicating results to employees. It is necessary to communicate the results that have been gathered to the employees so that they can be aware of their performance inside the firm throughout their employee life. So, with the help of it, they can improve their performance. It's up to them, or if they didn't improve it, there's a consequences behind of it. So, let's move to the purposes of performance appraisal. A central reason for the utilization of performance appraisal is measuring, correcting, and improving employee work performance. And it can also be a basis for employment decisions such as promotion. Promotion meaning a reward given by the employer for a good performance. Termination is employee's job ends. Transfers when an employee moves from one job to another, and that relatively equal in pay, responsibility, and status. And the last one is demotion, meaning is the reduction in rank. However, there are two basic reasons for the use of performance appraisal that are favorable to both organizations and employees. First is as an administrative tool, and the second one as a development-oriented tool. So, performance appraisal as an administrative tool. It is used by the human resource management to assess employees, the way they work, and overall performance inside the company, for them to be able to know if the worker is fitted for that work and that position. Performance appraisal as a development-oriented tool. It helps to see the strengths and weaknesses of their workers, and if they found out that their workers are productive and effective, the employee can be used as an advantage for them to produce more than usual. And in contrast, if an employee shows weaknesses, it is easy to guide him or her to become the better one. Fundamental points to consider in creating performance criteria. First, relevance to company strategic goals. So, it refers to what extent your performance reached to the set goals. So, the second one is failure to include an important aspect of a performance standard. So, it means if there's a criterion deficiency, the result will become irrelevant. The third one is inclusion of a should have not been there criterion. So, It means that if one's performance criteria has been manipulated, the result of the performance will definitely be incorrect. The fourth one is the reliableness, meaning that the standard should be given to the employees as uniform and as stable as possible.
Second, for who should evaluate employee performance is self-appraisal. It is also an instrument for the employees to make themselves aware of their whereabouts and to know themselves on what and where they are capable of. Third is subordinate appraisal. This is another company's way to get managers, and as the result of subordinate appraisal, it is known who is deserved for the promotion. Fourth is peer appraisal. This kind of method is done by an employee to other employee, and in this concept of peer appraisal, it is complete by fellow workers, then submit it to the supervisor for the final appraisal. And for the last who should evaluate employee performance is 360-degree assessment. This is another kind of technique that gathers feedback from peers, colleagues, and supervisors, and it also involves getting different point of view from outside source like customers, investors, and supplier which have a direct communication from the employee. Performance appraisal method. This kind of method is designed to gauge the quality of employees' performance. In other companies, this kind of method is effective, yet to other companies, it is not applicable. But there's no best way of appraising performance unless you give the specific need of the company. Let's now move on to character traits method. This kind of method could be the edge to every employees who are demonstrative, innovative, and which requires character traits. And for the graphic rating scale, this kind of method evaluates the extent, and if an individual possesses certain traits or behavior which are not useful, the rating should conform to the scale that describes traits.
Mixed standards rating scales. This method is a newer version of graphic rating scales as constructed with other rating scales. The evaluator is furnished with performance dimensions showing outstanding, average, and bad performance. Descriptive statement in a mixed standard are randomly combined, thus reducing rater biases by making it less obvious which item reflects best or worst performance. Example po ay parang ini-evaluate ng ang performance kung good or bad behavior ang isang employee at kung nag-improve ba siya or the same pa din siya ng dati. Forced choice method. This is a form of appraisal in which the evaluator is provided which question in multiple choice format from which he is required to choose a single option in rating the employees. The list of questions include only favorable or unfavorable behavior to choose from. This will direct the evaluator in a position in which he is forced to describe the performance as either favorable or non-favorable. Ang example po ay may isang employee na mag-represent ng two pictures side by side on a video screen and ask the participant to select quickly which image contains a moving part. Written report method. This is also known as the essay method. Here, the evaluator prepares a written report that details the employee's strong and weak points in essay form and ultimately offers recommendation for improvements. Ang example po ay may superior or manager na gagawa ng letter para sa employee to describe ang strength and weaknesses sa job behavior or kung nag-i-improve ba ang isang employee. Behavioral-based method. One great stumbling block of the character traits method is a tendency to be unclear and biased. Behavior-based appraisal was designed to especially outline which conduct or attitude critical incident method. In this method, the manager keeps a recording of exceptionally good and acceptable employee behavior. An example of exceptionally good behavior is when an employee is being courteous and respectful to his fellow employees, his manager, and to the customer. Parang as an employee ay nag-habit na ang lumiban or laging late, tapos marami pa siyang excuses, tapos parang binabastos pa niya ang customers. Behavioral checklist method. From all times, this method has been used by evaluators to rate behavioral aspects that are relevant to the employee's job. It is done by putting a check mark on the statement describing the employee behavior as shown in the appraisal form. Ang example ay as an employee, kailangan gawin ang mga pinagagawa ng manager or ng mataas sa tamang due date or before the due date para ma-maintain ang performance and behavior ng isang employee. Behaviorally anchored rating scales. This is type of appraisal technique whose rating scales are behaviorally anchored on a sequence of statements that are descriptive of the employee behavior. It is done by the listing all areas of the relevant performance behavior or recorded by the manager or evaluator. Numerical values are then assigned to each scales of behavioral anchors. The evaluator or manager should indicate which behavior from each scales appropriately defines an employee's performance. Parang as a manager, kailangan tignan niya ang hawak niyang employee para makita niya ang performance or kung nag-i-improve ba ang employee niya.
These are the advantage and disadvantage of appraisal method. First is character traits. The disadvantages includes relevant dimensions, cost efficient, and simple to use, while the disadvantage is prone to rating flaws, not advisable for employee counseling, and not helpful for growth and advancement decision. Second is behavior-based. Ang advantage is make use of specific job performance indicators, helpful in providing performance feedback, appropriate for compensation and benefit decision, and pleasing to workers and superiors. Ang disadvantage is take considerable time to complete, expensive to prepare, and errors are more likely to happen. And last is the output-based method. Ang advantage is agreeable to workers and managers, tie employee and organizational goals, and ideal for remuneration and benefits decision. While the disadvantage is longer time to complete, katulad lang siya ng behavior-based, and may promote a shorter outlook, and last, may include irrelevant job standards. Performance evaluation errors. First is the halo effect. Yung halo effect is letting one positive work factor you like affect your all-over assessment of performance. Output-based method. Most organizations assess employees' performance through the outputs they accomplish. At work, supporters of output-based method claim that this method is unbiased and more motivating for employees. First is production-based. It is based on production and often popular choice for those result-based positions. For example, if you are in manufacturing business, evaluate worker productivity through their quantity of their outcomes. You can track based on units that workers made. You could track workers' results over a certain amount of time. You can compare it against company average. You could also compare it against goals that have been set from each employee or department at the beginning of appraisal phase. Ito magandang method for those jobs that don't go by numbers. Also, does not allow for other factors that go into job performance such as attitude, effort, and customer service. Second is management by objectives or MBO. It describes particular purposes or objectives, and in MBO, management and employee work together. Having your HR team and employees work together to agree on mutual objective to meet is often a good choice for companies. They can agree on objectives before the assessment period starts. With a good employee records retention system, the HR department can easily look back at what they agreed and go over the results at the time of appraisal. Objectives can be based on goals and numbers or on more abstract details such as customer satisfaction. The important thing is to come up with objectives that relate to their jobs and that are easy to track. Objectives will often be different depending on the employee's role within the company. Performance evaluation error. First is the halo effect. Yung halo effect is letting one positive work factor you like affect your overall assessment of performance. For example, is when a supervisor forms a positive impression of an employee's skill in one area and then gives her a high ratings across all rating criteria. And when the supervisor rates employees with the traits that he deems more important higher in all rating areas than employees who do not possess those traits, the supervisor is committing the halo effect. Second is the horn effect. Opposite to ng halo effect. Ito naman is letting one negative work factor or behavior you dislike color your opinion of other factors. The third one is central tendency. Ito naman yung pag-rate sa employees ng average. Some supervisors tend to rank all employees at above average, regardless of an employee's performance. A supervisor who believes in never rating an employee as excellent is demonstrating central tendency error. Ang pang-apat naman sa performance evaluation errors ay yung strictness or leniency. Ito naman yung it's either i-rate yung employee ng low or high. Leniency error is the tendency of the supervisor to rate an employee higher than what his performance warrants. Reasons that a supervisor might do this include avoiding confrontation or feeling that by giving the employee a high rating, he will work harder to live up to the rating. And last, for the performance evaluation process is the bias. Allowing your bias to influence the rating. Bias can come from attitudes and opinions about race, national origin, sex, religion, age, veteran status, disability, hair color, weight, height, and intelligence.